All right, folks, good evening and a warm welcome to the program. Feel very free to be a part of it. I am Citizen Jones. Let's quickly tell you, today on the program, House of Reps calls on CBN to suspend bank charges on deposits, and later on, we'll share this with you. Army seals off Office of Action Against Hunger in Borno State, accuses the body of feeding Boko Haram insurgents. I'm hanging out with Babajide Kolade Utitoju. Jide, good evening to you.
Good evening, Citizen.
We do have Janet Mba Afolabi. Janet, I greet you.
Good evening.
You had a great outing the other time. Good for you.
Thank you very much. But you didn't come, you didn't attend.
Yeah, I told you there was a mix-up in the dates and days. We'll talk about that after the show. But of course, Mobolade Omonijo has joined us again. I greet you, sir.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Good. The team is ready. I hope you are. Now, the House of Representatives has asked the Apex Bank, the Central Bank of Nigeria that is, to suspend the implementation of the new aspect of the cashless policy on deposits. House spokesperson, Honorable Benjamin Kalu, moved the resolution and brought under urgent matters of national importance. The argument is simply that the CBN had not made wide consultations with critical interested parties, or what you call the stakeholders. The good old habit of sensitization is missing here, and therefore a call to active conflict or brinkmanship. Now let's hear how it went on the floor of the House regarding the issue. Please join us now.
The Central Bank of Nigeria's latest policy on deposits and withdrawals took effect on Wednesday, the 18th day of September 2019 in some states. The nationwide implementation of the new policy is slated to commence in March next year. In a circular to deposit money banks, the CBN hinted of the imposition of charges on deposits in addition to already existing charges on withdrawals. While the central bank's directive, a 3% processing fee is imposed on withdrawals and 2% for lodgements of amounts above 500,000 naira for individuals. For corporate accounts, the CBN said banks will now charge 5% processing fee for withdrawals and 3% for lodgements of amounts above 3 million naira. But this policy is not sitting well with the legislators. They describe the policy as anti-people and another way of enriching a few at the expense of the suffering masses.
The Central Bank of Nigeria did not consider the people as the prime important and indeed the centerpiece of policy making, even as Section 14 sub 2B of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, as altered, provides for the security and welfare of the people as the primary purpose of government.
We have handed over our micro and macro and financial arrangement to some persons. The prayer of the motion says 4 weeks to report back to the House. Mr. Speaker, I think that will be too long even if we are granted.
The manner this was done is very wrong. No one was consulted. The House was not consulted. Who was consulted? It was like a decree, like we're in the military era.
This issue is very important. I heard that Honorable Abonte talking that we should call the CBN governor to come and tell us the reason. We don't need the reason. It's our responsibility as representative of the people here. If we see anything that will affect people, to stop it.
Those in favor.
The House Committee on Banking and Currency is to interface with the CBN authorities and report back to the House in 4 weeks.
All right, welcome back. Gentlemen, Jide, beginning with you. Most of the time we say here, there's a marked difference between a policy that sounds good and a policy that's good sounding. You know, you have this policy. Where is the place of sensitization here to remove every vestige of suspicion?
Well, beyond even sensitization, I think the greatest harm we do to ourselves is we continue to deceive ourselves. When you look at this cashless policy, yes, it's desirable. The countries of Europe and America, they continue to operate a credit-based economy. Everyone is happy. But in the case of Nigeria, do we have an efficient payment system? Do we have the requisite infrastructure to support this policy? The answer is no. Let me give the example of someone who leaves Kavanchan and goes to Aba to buy shoes, homemade shoes, worth 2 million naira. If he decides to withdraw money from the banks will take out of his money. They will charge him. If he decides to send the money electronically to the client, anything can happen. It is possible that the client will not receive the money. Because you ask this question, it happens to us all the time. Oh, have you received an alert? And you are told, no, that has not happened. It could just hang in between.
Meanwhile, you have been charged for the alert.
You know, debited. Debited.
For the alert itself.
Yes, debited for the transaction.
So the transaction.
Now, most banks would take a minimum of 72 hours to even reverse that kind of unfortunate happenstance. Some in a whole week will not be able to reverse it. Now tell me, will the man who traveled from Kavanchan, who does not have a home in Kavanchan, I mean in Aba, feel comfortable to stay for 1 whole week seeking the reversal of deductions that are already been made to his account without the recipient, the man who is supposed to be the recipient, actually receiving the money? So this is a great disincentive to many of our people. They would rather transact business in cash. Go to the north. A lot of the big cow sellers, they don't use the banks.
The point of sales
they don't use the bank. They don't want to use the bank. There's a market in Kano called Singa Market. The volume of transaction in that place can only be compared to what you have in Okeari in Lagos. Yet, an overwhelming majority of those traders don't use the banks.
Don't give me the impression that we are a people cast in concrete. We can't follow the
truth. Look, I'm saying that even one, if you want to get people to use the banks a lot more, it is by moral suasion. You can't force people to use the banks. There are some people who will not use our banks for religious reasons. That's why you have the Jaiz Bank, for example. Okay. No interest. Whatever you keep in the Jaiz Bank is an Islamic bank, no interest. We have to keep talking to our people. These charges that have been introduced, in my view, Emefiele just merely wants to use it to help his colleagues in the banking sector to make more money. We are talking about cashless society. But we can see that many of our banks have even increased the charges for use of the ATM. How does this encourage people to go cashless? Even the telcos that should help us to deepen this cashless policy, especially in the rural areas, you know that their penetration is just not good enough. So we have all kinds of problems. We don't want to solve those problems. We just want to simply impose all kinds of charges, burdens on Nigerians. More than 98 million Nigerians are already going through multidimensional poverty. We can't keep, because we want revenue, we can't keep imposing all kinds of levies on our people.
Okay. Janet, but you know what he has just painted? Take it to a typical Ibibio setting in Akwa Ibom. or even in Omonijo's Ogun State, right?
I'm not from Ogun State.
Okay, you are from your state. Okay, it's all right, it's all right. So the picture is the same. And it takes more than sloganeering to send a message home, you know. At this stage, in the 21st century?
Citizen, you see, this policy that CBN just suddenly came up with is going to create more problem than it was meant to solve. CBN has not created the environment that will make this cashless policy to succeed or to work. It has not made it mandatory for every outlet, retail outlet, to have a POS. It has not begun any campaign to enlighten, to sensitize people on the need to go cashless. It has not even worked modalities to stop fake alerts, because sometimes you send money and the people you claim to have sent will say they didn't see, and some criminals also make fake alerts. Your phone will show that you are paid 10 million, meanwhile they have not sent a dime into that, into the account.
I'm trying to paint the mental picture.
Yes. So CBN should have done all of this. As beautiful as that policy may be, it's going to fail. It is going to fail because many Nigerians are still using cash to buy a lot of things. Many Nigerians do not even know the importance, although it has a lot of advantages. CBN may be worried about the volume of cash in the system because of how much it will cost them to maintain and to process cash volume in the system. The bank may be worried about buying counting machines. The bank may be worried about wrappers, about bullion van, and then providing policemen that will take those deposits to CBN.
That's it.
They may be worried about all of that. But despite that, Nigerians do not need to be coerced. Nigerians do not need to be forced. Nigerians do not need to be pushed into keeping their money in the bank when the money keeping appears punitive. You take 500,000 there, and the explanation on the interest is even confusing. Some are explaining that it is 100,000 above 500, if it's 600. Some are saying it's, so it is even confusing, the interest. So CBN really needs to do a lot of work. This policy is dead on arrival, and I support the move by the House of Rep, because they are representing millions of Nigerians. Yes. They feel their pains. They know what they are going through. And they are also representing their own interest, because they are the ones that have these volumes of money, and 1 million and above, and they move them. So you now take your money there, and one bank will just yank off 10% or 5% or whatever. That's stealing.
Yeah. Omonijo, and when you hear things like Nigerians have this happy knack for going ahead of any new system, you are saying 500,000. Do I need 500,000 withdrawal per day for you to take your, is it 3% or 2%? So what are we talking about?
I don't understand what you mean.
No. Going round in circles. Now, you say per 500,000 withdrawal.
No, anything above 500,000.
If I do anything below 500?
Yes. No, there will be no withdrawal.
499,000.
It is still below 500.
Yeah.
Yes. No, I think what they are saying, actually, I agree with what has been said so far around the table. That number one, we've not done enough in terms of sensitizing people. They started around 2011 December for us to talk about withdrawals and restricted at first to Lagos. Then from Lagos, it was expanded a little. Then by 2017, it was suspended because they were supposed to have gone national then, and they felt that they had not done enough, even on withdrawals. Then all of a sudden, they came up on September 17 and said, from tomorrow, you'll be paying on deposits. It certainly does not make sense in whichever way you look at it.
Economic or otherwise?
No, economic or otherwise, it doesn't. Though I sympathize, like my sister here has said, I sympathize with them talking about bulk handling of cash in the banks, in terms of transport of the money, in terms of security, or in moving cash about, in terms of printing cash so frequently. I can understand what, and in terms of us moving towards the digital age in all ramification. If we are talking of it in terms of election, we are talking of it in terms of broadcasting and all that, okay, I mean, why don't we have it in the commercial banking system? I can understand that, but you have to do what you must do. to be able to do that. And then we must also understand the cultural environment. The Nigerian cultural environment is deep-seated in cash movement. Nigerians want to touch their money. The other time, it was funny that the richest man in Nigeria, Dangote, said he once went to the bank and he withdrew, was it 10 million naira and so on, to even see what it feels like. That is at the top end of the matter. You can now imagine a man who is receiving 1 million for the first time in his lifetime. He wants to hold it and all that. So people are used to it, and it will take some time for us to be able to upturn this. And the banking system, the CBN, must appreciate this. And like Jide said, they have also failed in ensuring that we have adequate infrastructure to back it up. During the week, I sent money to someone from the bank. The person needed the money very urgently, and he could not get the money. The money, I was debited with the money. He went to the ATM. The money did not bring out his fund. He went to the bank, and they said, no, you have to wait 24 hours. 24 hours, he went again. They said, no, you write, then 10 working days, you come back. He said, look, that's all I have. So what do I do? He said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. These are some of the
tell
things
me,
you have.
you saw this in a motion picture. but it's all right, let's get serious. Like, do we really know what we want as a people, as a polity?
The problem is not with our people.
Okay.
If that is the tone of the question, the problem is not with our people. You come.
Sorry, maybe let me rephrase it. In a 21st century world, Nigeria is still playing catch up. And when you tell me in Kano, there's a market that would rather give everything up than go cashless in a 21st century Nigeria.
Well, if their religion preaches against any form of money doubling, in inverted commas, and they are not convinced that putting money in the bank will not lead to interest payment, then so be it. It is their choice. The good thing is that there is Jay's Bank. So with Jay's Bank, at least they can. It's an Islamic bank. They can put their money there.
It doesn't operate the cashless thing. The J's.
No, of course they will operate. Every bank is supposed to, but the cashless policy does not stop money deposit. It only encourages transaction of business electronically, so that it can be tracked and all that. It's not as if it banishes transaction in cash. No, it doesn't.
For the everyday man.
Yes, it's just to encourage you to, as much as possible, resort to electronic means of transacting a business. So, the point that I'm making is, in the countries where this cashless policy works effectively, they've solved the problem of infrastructure. They have what you call the Central Credit Bureau that ensures that at any point you can access your funds. For example, now, I can't access my funds at will because you are not even sure that, look, that money won't be stuck somewhere. And then you are told to come today, come tomorrow. These are things that discourage our people. Secondly, the central identification system ensures that these transactions can be done seamlessly. You are sure that, yes, the money will get to the person that you want to send it to. We do not have a central credit bureau that guarantees this. We do not have a central identification module that will help to deepen this kind of cashless initiative. So rather than address all of that and those teething problems that continue to discourage people from transacting business in a cashless format, we now want to kind of shoehorn Nigerians into embracing this idea. We want to make as much money as we can from people who are already facing multidimensional poverty. In my view, Nigeria has to bite the bullet. There are things that we refuse to do, that if we do, this revenue that we continue to complain about, that has dipped, and even Bill Gates complained about, we will have. For example, if we remove subsidy and NNPC's refineries that have consistently constituted a huge drain pipe on our country, what is the point in spending $389 million on refineries that are not producing anything? Who continues to keep a product that amounts to nothing? Nobody does that.
Sorry,
so why don't we just do what is right? Okay. Sell government assets that are useless to us, okay, and then take the subsidy off. If we do just these two, we will be able to save $10 billion every year.
Ayola, you are reaching us from Lagos. Good evening, welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. Let me quickly add more to what you are just discussing. Aside even the bank charges on the deposit and withdrawal, please, I want you and Mr. Jide. Hello?
Go on.
Hi. So please, expatiate a little bit more. The kind of role of the bank in this kind of policy implementation is just whereby they are asking us to go cashless economy. And somebody will not see, one way or the other, steal my ATM, be taking my money, and I report at the police station. The bank they don't have a single role to play to assist in apprehending such criminal. And yes, they are charging me on this ATM, they are charging on the transaction, and those who are stealing my money are going away from it. So they say that even the police find it difficult to get them apprehended.
All right, thank you, Ayola.
See, what some of the banks are doing amounts to pickpocketing. The hidden charges are growing every day because you and I hardly have the time to really even monitor all our banking transactions.
We don't know how much they are chopping.
You don't even know that
tiny bits.
They are just nibbling away at your money. Yeah. Go and check the record. Forensic accountants that have taken Nigerian banks to court, hundreds of cases of people's monies illegally taken by banks. And then we have a CBN governor who is trying to even get them to further fleece Nigerians. Because this is what, don't forget that we even the what's it called? The bank,
okay.
There's this other stamp duty.
Okay. Stamp duty, yeah.
That's another levy in inverted commas that you are subjected to. Yeah. So all kinds of levies, when there are things that we can do. Why, for example, do we have this dual exchange rate module? Why can't we stick to one? Is that how other countries behave? Because there are many areas through which we can save money as a country that we are not exploring because we lack the political will to do that. Rather, what we want to do is just continue to force Nigerians to part with the little money that they have.
Janet, each time a measure like this comes up, you hear this new measure applies to Lagos, Ogun, Kano, Abia, Anambra, Rivers, and FCT in a 36-state structure.
I wonder why the operation of this kind of policy should be selective. It should either be in all the states or no state at all. Are you trying to discourage merchandise and industries? Like a state like Lagos is not an oil city, but it's a merchant city. Are you now against traders who are sweating to make profit and you want to equate them with those who are looting? These are the traders who go to market from morning till night to make a living, and then they take their money to the bank. It is no longer a hidden charge. It is an open and overt charges. A city like Kano is not an oil city, but it's also a merchant city. A lot of commerce goes on. The market Jide is talking about is on the way to Katsina on the right. It's one of the biggest markets in Africa. Are you saying that that kind of market you want to discourage traders from buying and selling, and other African countries?
Jide says they are targeting your money.
Whose money?
You know,
You know, so Port Harcourt is an oil city. So why are you selective? Why are you targeting places that you think people have money and then begin to deduct money by force? This is by fire, by force, and it shouldn't be. I don't know why the CBN always come up with this kind of policies that make people think that the CBN governor is insensitive to the plight of Nigerians. And the media people are not even helping matters by not sensitizing people ahead of their actions.
Omonija, the moment there's a suspicion about an institution's motive, everything that institution makes to do by way of redressing is suspicious.
Oh, yes. There's no doubt about that. They should have done their homework before coming out. And once you take a false step, you make a false move, it takes much more to be able to reverse the impression you've created in the minds of the people. And it's unfortunate because it's not about Emefiele.
Yeah.
It's about the Nigerian economy. It's about the Nigerian people. That's the point. And once you make such, and you get the Central Bank of Nigeria enmeshed in such mess, if you like, then it takes a lot to be able to redress that, and it affects everybody again. So head or tail, the people are losing. But we agree, I agree personally, that is where we must go, eventually. But we cannot pretend to have been there when we have not been able to put in place.
We have not even started.
Because we have not even started. And like you even said now, only 6 states plus FCT.
Oh, yeah.
If you go to your state, there is no cashless.
Scheme. No, you are saying my state, Akwa Ibom, is not rich.
No, we don't even know about your state.
No, go on.
They're approaching it like a pilot scheme.
No, really. Yeah. But it's been on pilot since 2011. You have not. How much of penetration have we been able to make around the country since then? It's 8 years after. It shows that we are not, both the government and the central bank and the banking system is guilty in this matter.
All right. I know the opinion is welling up in your mind, in your heart. Keep them. Let's go on this break and return. All right, then, you're still on the subject matter of what you are not comfortable with. Make deposits of beyond 500,000 naira, you pay a fee. Withdraw that amount, you pay a fee. Jide, like an eccentric, you want to ask, do you think there's a script here? There's a script writer here?
See, all I see is the people who run the Nigerian economy behaving like they have their back to the wall. They are looking for revenue by all means. You know, even that, we are going to have to live with the increase in VAT. And people talk about, VAT in Nigeria is the lowest. All our neighbors, the percentage of VAT is higher. But they don't factor into the whole argument the fact that in this West Coast, our currency is the weakest. So the purchasing power of the Nigerian has already been massively diminished by years of devaluation of our currency.
Sorry,
we were talking about South Africa.
Don't let me unnecessarily intrude here. You know, at a time to the Naira, the CD was 40 to 1 Naira. Today, when I hear about the conversion, I'm wondering if it's the same old Ghana we're talking about.
Let me tell you, you talk about Ghana, how about Benin Republic? Everyone can see that our currency is the weakest around here. Even the South Africans complain that we accept to be paid, our own people accept to be paid peanuts by South African employers.
In rands.
In rand, because our currency is weak. The rand is in the region of 6.9 to $1.
Okay.
That is a currency that is very, very strong when compared to our own 360 to $1.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about official rate of 305 now, because the 360 is the closest to reality. Yes. So this is the thing. All I see is the people who run the Nigerian economy behaving like they have their back to the wall. They are looking for revenue by all means. You know, even that, we are going to have to live with the increase in VAT. And people talk about, oh, VAT in Nigeria is the lowest. All our neighbors, the percentage of VAT is higher. But they don't factor into the whole argument the fact that in this West Coast, our currency is the weakest. So the purchasing power of the Nigerian has already been massively diminished by years of devaluation of our currency.
Sorry,
we were talking about South Africa.
Don't let me unnecessarily intrude here. You know, at a time to the Naira, the CD was 40 to 1 Naira. Today, when I hear about the conversion, I'm wondering if it's the same old Ghana we're talking about.
Let me tell you, you talk about Ghana, how about Benin Republic? Everyone can see that our currency is the weakest around here. Even the South Africans complain that we accept to be paid, our own people accept to be paid peanuts by South African employers.
In rands.
In rand, because our currency is weak. The rand is in the region of 6.9 to $1.
Okay.
That is a currency that is very, very strong when compared to our own 360 to $1.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about official rate of 305 now, because the 360 is the closest to reality. Yes. So this is the thing. The purchasing capacity of the Nigerian cannot be compared even to his peers in countries of the West Coast. So what are we talking about? We are asking for another loan of $2.5 billion
from the World Bank.
And already we are complaining that, look, we are taking too many loans.
The debt service is killing every year.
We spent in just a few months 1.1 trillion to service debt. It's huge. But that we complain that we are spending so much to service debt does not mean that because we are looking for revenue, you just put so much burden on the Nigerian. Because if it goes on like that, the Nigerian people will fight back. They will fight back.
All right. From Zamfara State, Yusuf is reaching us. Yusuf, how do you do? Good evening. Welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go, sir. You are on. You are on. Yusuf.
All right. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Babajide. My name is Yusuf, as you've heard. And I just want to let you understand one simple fact. What Babajide has been nagging all this while has been very clear. The
line is breaking. Okay. Janet, it must keep everybody talking, including the shoemaker at the market. So where do we go from here?
I think we need to, as the House of Rep has said, this policy needs to be suspended first, because for me it's very primitive. It is only in the primitive era that when people have so much, the king, the monarch, will now want to commandeer part of it. That is what CBN wants to do in this at this time and age that we are in. They should not take us back to the primitive days. They should, even if people have to pay, you need to sensitize them, encourage them, make them see reason for what you want to do, not just coming out and forcing them to do what they don't want to do.
Okay, then, we must drop anchor here, but let the debate continue wherever you might be, to be or not to be. You know, an international NGO, non-governmental organization, Action Against Hunger, working in Borno State has met a stone wall in the region. The Nigerian army has sealed off its Maiduguri office following very strong suspicions that it was in collusion with Boko Haram insurgents. A statement by the Operation Lafayette Dole Theater Command in the capital city revealed that it had credible intelligence, underline that, credible intelligence that the NGO was supplying the insurgents with both food and medication. In psychology, what you don't know does not hurt you, but what you suspect causes all the trouble, Jide.
You see, it's not the first time that the Nigerian army will make this kind of allegation. But on all occasions, it always falls short of providing evidence for the allegations that it makes. Yes, there are many people in the Northeast who are worried about the preponderance of NGOs and the apparent display of wealth by NGOs in the Northeast. Of course, they've made rent to be sky high in Borno State. So you see them with their multi-terrain vehicles going up and down. People have this feeling that, oh, these guys, they are profiting from an unfortunate situation. But all this are in the realm of suspicion. You must provide evidence. I mean, we are in a civilized age. You can't just accuse an NGO of, I've even had a soldier funnily say that they also supply weapons to the Boko Haram. And I'm like, where is the evidence?
The connection.
Yes, where is the evidence? This same thing was said about the UNICEF. The army just said, oh, that they do not want to see UNICEF in that area again, until the presidency stepped in. Because the army must even know its boundary. If you are moving against a UN agency, a recognized, a respected UN agency like UNICEF, you are indirectly declaring war on the UN itself. Because everywhere the UN has gone, everybody knows what the UN stands for. You can't come and tell people that, oh, this UNICEF aids Boko Haram. In what way? You must show proof that this is what they do. Empirical evidence, not simply to stand before a microphone and be saying all kinds of things because you know you are going to be reported, or that maybe some journalists there will lack the courage to ask you probing questions. So this is the thing. You must, no one is saying that, oh, it's impossible for action against hunger to do what the army has accused it of doing. But what we are saying is that the army has a history of making this kind of allegations without backing it with the evidence that the people need to be able to make up their minds whether this is really true. So is it going to happen like the last one that they banned the UNICEF and then later on they said, okay, we have decided to unban you, and then UNICEF went on to do its work. Nigerians must know that these NGOs, no matter what we say about them, they are very useful in that area. Look at what happened in Bama. Many of us didn't know the extent of malnutrition in Bama, and within the IDP camp, people were being buried every day, kids.
Malnutrition.
Until Medicine Sans Frontiers went there to unmask the problem. And even graves, freshly dug graves, where kids were being buried inside the IDP camp, was unmasked.
Don't raise more passion here. Janet, allusion to subversive actions of the NGOs persisted, according to the army, despite warnings.
That's what they allege. So the warnings, was it verbal? Was it written? If it were verbal, how did they go about it? Because the NGOs have a body, the NGO forum, and they have a spokesperson and they have leader. The verbal warning, was it reported to the body? And if it were a written form, where is the letter? Can it be published as evidence of warning? There is no doubt that institutions like this, NGOs can play two roles. They can either work for the Boko Haram fighters, and they can also work on humanitarian ground.
Add this to it, the army spokesman is saying AAH, that's Action Against Hunger, is one of the many NGOs operating in the region and is working on elongating the conflict.
Yes, that is the allegation, elongating the conflict in the sense that the army is alleging that it is feeding the Boko Haram fighters and also giving them drugs to keep them alive, to kill Nigerian army, Nigerian soldiers and members of the community.
And so how do they gain?
How?
How will the AAH gain here?
They may be supporting them subtle. There could be subtle support. There could be covert support. You cannot really speak for either party because we are not there. It reminds me of what happened during the war, Jones, the civil war, the Nigerian civil war. In Calabar, NGOs came to distribute salt because salt was scarce. And a lot of people were dying because of lack of salt. So they brought salt and fish that was very rich in salt. It was called mangala.
And milk.
Yes. So even those who were not refugees were going to that camp to collect the mangala, salt, and other things. So it could be the same thing with the Boko Haram fighters. They could go to the NGO because the NGOs will not know who is who. And the Boko Haram will not tell them, I am this or that. So they give food, they give drugs to everybody. And most of them may even be the fighters, which the soldiers may know or may not know, but know through credible intelligence according to them.
Omonijo, we are living in perilous times.
Yes, we are. We are.
Remember the Chinese saying, it's also a curse, they say, may you live in interesting times. The interesting times are here.
Well, interesting could be either way.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting positively or negatively. Interesting nonetheless. But I'm bothered because it appears the Nigerian army does not know that it is supposed to work under a government. It cannot just take a decision and say you are banned from this area. Even if let's assume that the Nigerian army has credible evidence, it should pass it on to the relevant government agency that will process it. We are talking of an international NGO. We are talking of the diplomatic world. We are talking of so many others that are involved there. You must give the right impression to them. No, you cannot just say this one is banned UNICEF today and this one is actually against hunger tomorrow. No, if you feel so and you have strong evidence, pass it on to the government. The government looks into it. The government gets across to the headquarters of that organization.
That's it.
Action Against Hunger was formed by professionals from France, and they have their headquarters in New York now. They operate in about 50 countries. It didn't just start here. It started as far back as 40 years ago.
And the fact that you opened your doors to the organization
brought them here.
Means
they are not operating illegally.
That's it.
Unofficial. They are here officially and legally. So it's possible that you have one or two even bad eggs who are doing some things. That does not mean that we should tag the entire organization with that. They operate in places like Afghanistan, in Somalia, and everywhere. So if we have any evidence like that, we should point it out to them so that they can even tighten up their own operations if we have to. But when you decide, the army decides today, it means tomorrow the Air Force can decide elsewhere. It means another day the police could decide to do anything. And how does it present us?
All right.
So that we are not organized.
Yele is reaching us from Oyo State. Yele, good evening to you. Welcome.
Yeah, good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening. I'm sorry I have to go back to what you were discussing earlier because I've been trying to get you in the past.
If it helps us.
Pardon?
If it's going to help the discussion.
Yeah, it's going to help because, you see, I think first and foremost, we should look at the history of what brought the central bank governor into office in the first instance. You see, because when you look at it, that he was MD of Zenith Bank, and Zenith Bank was owned by another.
Yele, I'm sorry. Let's bring us up to speed. This issue on the floor, this subject is very, very key.
What I'm trying to say is that
link it quickly.
Foremost, the House of Representatives has made an order that the CBN should suspend this. I can assure you that this is not going to be because they don't respect anybody in the House of Representatives. They do not respect people in the House of Representatives, and they will not be part of whatever suspension or whatever it is that you have asked them to suspend.
Yali, I must stop you here. I must stop you here, not to discountenance what you have said, but it's an orderly thing, even if we are at a hangout. The Army sealing of the action, the AAH office in Maiduguri is key, is troubling, especially at this time. Jide, and the longer the war on terror persists in a country, the longer the people become ambivalent about counter-offensive, counter-insurgency efforts.
You see, the truth that the Army fails to admit is that many of these NGOs have paid, many of their staff have been lost to this war.
Yes, that's the point.
UNICEF, others, there are still some being held now.
Well, 6 of them were arrested.
Still being held.
Abducted the other time.
And as we speak.
Captive.
Just because they want to help people who are vulnerable. If we give the impression that we don't want to see these people, then it's wrong. The Nigerian Army shouldn't assume that only it can superintend the whole of that area, and that information from that area will only be known to it. When you operate in that area and you have access to information about that area, the Nigerian Army becomes worried, because all that they want is for only the information emanating from them to get to the public. You saw how they treated Daily Trust. And what did Daily Trust do? Daily Trust interviewed refugees who fled from Baga to Maiduguri. They asked them, what is the situation of things? And they told them that Boko Haram was still in charge of that place. Before then, the army lied to us that they repelled the Boko Haram attack. I was in Borno State at that time. I spent Christmas in Borno State. I knew it was a lie, that they did not repel any attack. Daily Trust went ahead, reported what happened, and then said that the army was planning a big offensive. They didn't go into tactics, because in any case, you have to be within the army to know the kind of tactics that they are going to use to flush those guys out of Baga. The next thing, they went, sealed off Daily Trust, and said that Daily Trust released information that was going to hurt the security of the country. Is it not supposed to be assumed that if the insurgents took over a Nigerian community, that the army will fight back to take it?
Natural.
Is it not supposed to be given? Because that's the only thing that those guys said. They didn't even go into the nitty-gritty. They didn't even have that information. And then the place was locked up. Later on, the same army that claimed that it repelled an attack, when they now successfully entered the place, when the special forces entered Baga, the Chief of Army Staff was now praising them to high heavens. But the question is, did you not say that you repelled the attack? So why are you praising them for entering the community? So this is the thing. Remember when Al Jazeera came to try to do a documentary on the war, all the Al Jazeera crew members were arrested.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in other countries. No. In other countries, people are allowed to cover war. But you want to be the only people in that area. Nobody can cover the war except you permit it. It doesn't happen anywhere else. Yeah. So we should condemn the attempt to chase away caregivers. Because remember those 2 girls that were executed by Boko Haram? Yeah. They pay with they are caregivers, those midwives. And some are still in detention. Don't give the impression that caregivers are terrible people, that they don't do anything in the Northeast. I have seen them treat people, doctors, treat people. They are putting their own lives on the line, just like soldiers.
Okay.
So they are useful too. They are useful.
Janet, you know, in this business, we say when there is no information, rumors will fill the gap. Exactly. So who do we believe now, given the scenario printed by Jide? We must believe somebody.
We must believe somebody. That's why the other side needs to be heard. And I referred to the body of the NGOs, or even the Action Against Hunger itself. It must have a spokesperson, a representative, somebody to speak on his behalf, either to deny the allegation or...
They've denied already. They've denied.
Yes, but they still did not deny it in that. They said they don't know why, that they just got to the office.
They even said that they were not informed before they just sealed the office, and there has been no official communication even since.
Yes, and they said they even asked the soldiers
in that, so
and,
it's denial still.
And they asked the soldiers who are not talking to them. Apparently, the soldiers there cannot talk to anybody, because those soldiers are the kind of soldiers that were used during the military era, during Abacha, when 4 journalists were sent to jail. If you ask them any question, it's like talking to a deaf and dumb person. They are there on a mission, and they talk to nobody.
That's the underline, that on a mission. So
let them. We are not even saying they should not be on the mission. Let them end that mission. Now, I don't think there's any Nigerian who is excited that the war is still on. Let the war end. Defeat the insurgents. I know this will not be happening.
She just what she said now, brings my mind to what the late General Abacha said regarding this challenge. If a war like this goes on for much too long, then there's a little something, there's a little cocoa in it.
I don't know where Abacha, how Abacha could have said such a thing, because we've seen insurgencies that government had no hand in it, yet it went on for many years.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that same government eventually crushed the insurgency. So for someone to say if an insurgency goes on for a few years, 3 years, then government must have a hand in it, it's ridiculous. In Sri Lanka, Tamil Tigers fought the Sri Lanka government for 25 years.
No, Jide, which is
a generalization.
Which is not what I meant.
No, because I've been hearing it for so long.
Yeah.
And it's extremely ridiculous to
also
hear this kind of thing.
Abdullahi has joined us from Jos. Welcome. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, sir. How do you do? Let's go.
I'm fine.
Okay, then.
I want to contribute to... good evening.
Go on, sir. Go on.
Good evening, all. I'm fine, thank you. I want to thank you people for a job well done. And I want to contribute to the issue of the Nigerian Army sealing the office of the NGO. The issue is that actually there should be a very good intelligence gathering in respect of these NGOs. Because just as the madam has just said, nobody is telling the truth, if it is the army or the NGO. So there should be a proper investigation to know, because that NGO is not the only NGO in the Northeast. There are a lot of NGOs in the Northeast.
All right. Okay. That there aren't too many NGOs in the Northeast.
Yes.
There are so many NGOs in the Northeast, and you expect that there will be many NGOs in the Northeast.
Ideally, yeah.
And they have a role to play over there.
What I meant to say when I brought in the name of Abacha, rest his soul, when we hear there are 5th columnists on the inside, not necessarily at the top. On the inside, they want this thing to go on.
Well,
have you also heard that?
There may be 5th columnists. Every situation some people want to profit from, you could have that. But it doesn't mean that it has official stamp or official support.
It cannot.
But there will always be people who want to profit.
What the quote him as saying was that, if an insurgency goes on for 3 years, then government must be involved in it. There was an insurgency that began in 1992 in Algeria, when the Muslim party won an election and the military denied it power.
Don't you remember the day June 12 election too?
In the end, the military crushed that rebellion.
Yes.
To show that government had no hand in it. The military crushed it. So Abacha has been maybe he didn't even say it. Maybe he didn't even say it.
Because Abacha never talked
because
too much.
I can't remember.
Abacha making public statements.
I covered Abacha, and I can't remember when Abacha even made that statement. So, but Nigerians continue to say that, oh, any insurgency that lasts for government must have a hand in it.
Insurgency Abacha will really have been
at that time, because at that time it was just
rebels. It was not an insurgency.
Yes,
really?
It was just rebels in Algeria, in Sudan, because I was also a reporter at that time, so I know what happened. And it was not this kind of insurgency.
You are bearing it quickly. You are bearing it, taking it home.
Yes, I've already buried it.
Okay. Manager, how do you bury this?
Well, let me just say that the Nigerian army must be careful the kind of image of Nigeria it portrays.
Yes.
On Amnesty International, it got it wrong. On UNICEF, it got it wrong. Nigeria is an orderly country, and we have mechanisms and processes for getting things done. It's not just for the army because it is fighting to assume that they are the only patriots.
Because they have guns.
Yeah. It's wrong. Okay. Things must be done in the right way.
30 seconds.
I expect the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to get involved in this, or the new Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. Those are the people who should be able to know which NGO is doing the job that it ought to be doing. It's not the duty of the army to be doing this. The army should go and crush the Boko Haram insurgents who are killing people in Gubbio, killing people in Magumeri and other places. That is what we want from them. Defeat the insurgents. Don't distract yourself. Defeat the insurgents. Once you defeat the insurgents, we'll be happy.
Don't do it.
No. Let's talk to them. Let's talk to Burate and his people. Defeat the insurgents. That's the business that we have with you. We are not interested in distractions. Oh, UNICEF today, or Citizen Jones tomorrow.
It's all right now.
Or Janet tomorrow.
Thank you, our manager, for coming.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here.
No, it's a good way to end this. Today is Friday.
By the time they mention your name.
Sorry, is she Janet or Janet?
All right, that's it for today and the week. We want to thank you very kindly for your time. You may also watch the show on other platforms showing on your screen, and on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. The feedback channel remains the same. All right, folks, on behalf of the Backroom Boys, enjoy your weekend, but think Nigeria. These are crazy, terrible, perilous times. These problems are man-made. Bye-bye now.